Okay, so
Yeah.
let's unpack this. You know that feeling, that absolute mountain of information when you try to learn English, all the grammar rules, thousands of words, pronunciation, that just feels impossible.
Oh, yeah.
If you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by it all, maybe even, tried really hard for a bit and then just stopped, trust me, you are so not alone. We've been spending some time with a stack of material. You shared some personal notes, some really fascinating research, actually, and it really gets to the heart of why that overwhelm happens.
And what's interesting, right, is that this material suggests the problem isn't necessarily like the English language itself being impossibly difficult.
Right.
But often it's our approach to learning. That's what trips us up.
It's a different way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So our mission, I guess, in this deep dive is to try and extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from this material.
Yeah, the key takeaways.
We want to figure out how you can make consistent progress, real progress, without feeling buried under that avalanche of info or crushed by totally impossible expectations.
And running through all these sources, there's this core idea. It feels almost counterintuitive at first. Maybe the key isn't in taking these massive leaps, but in surprisingly small steps. Tiny habits.
Okay, tiny habits. All right, so let's start by really digging into the problem itself. What exactly is this overwhelm trap? And why do so many people fall into it when learning English?
Well, the sources highlight a couple of really big drivers. One is definitely what they call the perfection trap.
Oh.
There's this huge pressure, sometimes internal, sometimes external, to get everything right immediately. Your grammar's got to be flawless, your vocabulary massive, your pronunciation perfect.
Rigid day one.
Exactly.
Oh, the pressure to sound like you grew up speaking English after maybe just a few lessons, that alone can just make you freeze up, can't it?
Absolutely. And coupled with that, this material points out, is trying to tackle every single skill simultaneously. Right?
You feel like you have to listen perfectly, speak fluently, read complex texts, and write amazing essays all at the same time.
Yeah, trying to juggle all of that just splits your focus, and honestly, it feels paralyzing.
It's totally like trying to train for a marathon. By deciding to run the full 26 miles on day one, your body would just collapse.
Yeah, it would just give up.
And the sources make the point that your brain kind of does the same thing when it's faced with those unrealistic expectations.
Precisely. And this kind of expectation overload leads directly to a really, really common experience shared in these sources. There's an anecdote about someone who, with the best intentions.
Always the best intentions.
Right. Tried to study English for hours every single day, right at the start, reading difficult articles, trying to write these complicated sentences, drilling pronunciation exercises nonstop.
Okay, I think I can already guess where this is heading.
Exactly. Burnout. Complete exhaustion and frustration after just a couple of days.
Which led to them giving up entirely for a whole month. And this story, it's echoed throughout the material. It's a really common pattern for many learners when they push too hard, too fast, expecting perfection right from the start.
Okay, so we get the problem. Trying to do way too much, expecting perfection, and that inevitably leads to burnout and giving up. So what does this material propose as the way out of that trap?
Well, the central solution presented again and again is the power of tiny habits. Simple, daily, bite-sized actions.
Bite-sized, okay.
Things that are so small they almost feel insignificant, but critically, they fit easily into your everyday life.
That feels like such a dramatic shift from the all-or-nothing sprint we were just talking about.
It really is. And the research mentioned here kind of provides the backbone for this idea.
Right. There are studies mentioned?
Yeah. Studies in language acquisition consistently show that steady, bite-sized learning is far more effective and, crucially, sustainable in the long run than those sporadic cramming sessions.
Right. Cramming just doesn't stick the same way.
Exactly. The core insight here seems to be that consistency, even in tiny amounts, builds those learning pathways much more effectively than infrequent, really intense efforts. It's about building, like automaticity.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think, because it forces a complete mindset shift, doesn't it?
Totally.
It's moving from seeing language learning as this monumental task you sprint towards and then collapse, to understanding it as a long-term process, something you integrate into your life little by little, day by day.
And there's a fascinating, almost like you said, counterintuitive benefit mentioned in the sources. When you deliberately let go of that pressure to be perfect, when you break it down into tiny, manageable steps, you can actually make faster progress.
Really? How so?
Well, your brain isn't under so much cognitive load, apparently.
Okay.
It relaxes, and the learning seems to stick better and kind of flow more easily.
Okay, that makes sense. Less stress, more absorption.
So, the core message is truly that learning a language doesn't have to feel overwhelming. It's about taking small, realistic steps you can actually fit into your day, every day, without it feeling like this giant chore looming over you.
All right, so let's dive into some specific practical examples then. What kind of tiny habits are outlined in the sources? These things designed to weave English into your life naturally, almost without you noticing.
Okay, first up, how can you weave English into that morning routine, something you already do?
The suggestion is incredibly simple. As you do something completely automatic, like, say, brushing your teeth or making coffee,
Okay.
listen to a very short English podcast snippet, maybe just a minute or two, or even just repeat a simple sentence to yourself in English.
Like what? Give me an example.
Oh, something like, today is a great day, I'm going to learn something new, or whatever phrase resonates with you.
It sounds almost deceptively simple, doesn't it? But I can see how it would really prime your brain, kind of get it started thinking in English right away.
It does. It sets that intention and gets your mind into an English mode before the day's inevitable rush begins.
Okay, I like that one. This next habit is one that visually appeals to me, sticky notes.
Yes, a favorite from the sources, definitely. The idea is putting simple English word labels like fridge, mirror, window, chair, basic stuff on the actual objects around your house.
Right, so you see the word on the thing.
Exactly. And the material points out why this works so well. It connects the English word directly to the physical object. You see window on the window.
Ah, so it bypasses the need to translate from your first language in your head.
Precisely. There's a great anecdote in the sources about someone whose flat ended up being completely covered in these notes, looking utterly ridiculous, apparently.
I could picture it.
But they said it was incredibly effective for building that passive vocabulary. Just seeing the words constantly.
It's like a constant, low-effort vocabulary review built right into your environment. You literally can't avoid it. All right, so we've got morning sounds and visual cues. How about something that gets you actually using the language, even if it's just, well, to yourself?
This one feels a little odd when you first hear it, maybe a bit strange.
Okay.
But it's surprisingly powerful according to the sources, talking to yourself. It's about narrating your simple daily actions aloud in English.
Okay, so like, I'm walking to the kitchen now, I need to get a glass of water, where did I put my keys, that kind of thing.
Exactly that. And the huge bonus here, as the sources gleefully point out, is that there's absolutely no one around to judge your grammar or your pronunciation.
Oh, true. Zero pressure.
You're just training your brain to think and form basic sentences in English in a completely private, totally low-stakes environment.
It builds confidence in that basic fluency without the pressure of having a listener right there.
Yeah.
Actually, what else is on this list of tiny habits?
Music. Music is a fantastic one. And again, the suggestion is simple. Pick just one English song each day.
One song, not a whole album, not hours of listening. Just one.
Just one. And the process is key. Listen actively to the song, maybe look up the lyrics online, try to understand the meaning of just a few lines, and then try singing along.
Singing along. Okay.
The sources even mention recording yourself singing for some bonus, maybe slightly brave pronunciation practice.
Oh, wow. Okay. What kind of songs?
Well, the examples given are classics, like Don't Stop Believin' or Here Comes the Sun. But the critical part, the sources really emphasize this, is picking a song you actually love.
Right. Because if you enjoy it,
you are exponentially more likely to stick with it daily. Enjoyment is the fuel for consistency.
Enjoyment is the secret ingredient for consistency, isn't it?
Good.
Okay, makes sense. And the final daily habit mentioned involves social media.
Yeah, this one feels almost sneaky because most people are already doing it anyway.
Scrolling on their phones.
Exactly. The idea is to simply follow just one enjoyable account in English every day. Could be on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever platform you like. And just, consume their content daily. Watch their videos, read their captions.
So it's incredibly low-pressure listening or reading practice.
Totally. And if you're feeling a little braver, the sources suggest leaving a really simple comment. Something tiny like, great video, or love this idea.
Ah, so that turns passive consumption into a tiny practical writing exercise.
Mm-hmm. You're already scrolling anyway, right? Why not turn your phone into a tiny built-in English learning tool?
Precisely. The takeaway from this whole section on the specific habits is that they aren't meant to feel like traditional heavy studying sessions.
No, definitely not.
They're about finding clever ways to blend English into your life so it feels natural, integrated, and much, much less like a chore.
Okay, listeners, you've heard about the overwhelm trap, why expecting perfection leads to burnout, and how the power of tiny, consistent habits offers a real way out. We've given you some specific examples from the sources.
So now it's time to put this into action. Let's try and make this real with a little challenge.
This is where we shift from just understanding the theory to actually experiencing the practice for yourself. Starting right now, we want to encourage you to pick just one of these simple daily habits we've discussed.
Literally one.
Just one, and commit to doing it every single day for the next 7 days.
7 days. That feels incredibly achievable, doesn't it? Yeah. The goal here isn't perfection for 7 days. It's simply consistency. Consistency with that one tiny, almost effortless habit.
Consistency is the magic word here, definitely. The sources share a wonderful anecdote about a friend who was learning French and felt completely overwhelmed.
Okay.
They started by committing to commenting bonjour, just bonjour, on one Instagram post every single day. It felt almost ridiculously small at first.
Just bonjour. That's the entire habit. So what happened after 7 days of just saying hello online?
Well, after a week of that tiny, consistent action, she noticed her confidence had actually increased significantly.
Really? From just that?
Yeah. That small daily win, the simple act of engaging with the language, however minimally it kind of snowballed. She suddenly felt ready to try slightly bigger things, like sending a short voice message in French, or even attempting a brief conversation.
Wow. See? That's the power of starting tiny.
Yes.
It builds momentum and it just reduces that huge intimidation factor. You don't have to scale the whole mountain on day one.
No.
You just put on your shoes and take one tiny step forward.
And there's also that great anecdote from the sources about how focusing on these tiny practical actions completely shifted their perspective on practice itself.
How so?
Practice stopped feeling like something to dread, like homework.
Yeah.
And it started feeling like something actually enjoyable, prompting questions like, what new tiny phrase might I try using today?
Yeah, it's kind of like sneaking vegetables into a delicious pasta sauce. You get the goodness without the pain.
That's a great analogy.
Making practice a natural, integrated part of your daily rhythm is just exponentially more effective and sustainable than just telling yourself you need to study harder for these long, miserable stretches.
Absolutely. So consider this your official invitation. Look back at the list of tiny habits we talked about. Maybe it's talking to yourself while you make breakfast, maybe sticking labels on 5 things around you today, singing along to one song you love, or just following and watching one English account on social media. Pick one.
Just one.
And commit to doing it every day for the next 7 days.
And we would absolutely love for you to share your journey. If you're on social media, maybe tag us at English with Confidence and let us know what habit you chose and how it's going. Seriously, hearing your stories could be the exact inspiration someone else needs to take their own first tiny step.
Definitely. We're all on this learning journey together, right? Your small win could absolutely be the spark for someone else who's struggling with that feeling of overwhelm right now.
So that wraps up this deep dive into using tiny habits to conquer overwhelm in English learning. We've looked at why feeling buried happens and how focusing on consistent small steps offers a surprisingly powerful solution. We've given you practical examples and challenged you to try one for the next week. Stick with it, even for just 7 days, and you will truly start to see the cumulative power of those tiny actions.
And maybe the most important takeaway from all this material, the thing to really hold on to is this. It's fundamentally not about being perfect from day one.
No.
It's simply about being persistent, even if it's just a tiny bit persistent every single day, because even tiny progress is absolutely still progress.
That's it for this deep dive. If you found this helpful, please maybe consider sharing it with someone you know who is learning English.
Yeah, spread the word. And leaving us a review or a rating wherever you listen, that really helps more learners discover these ideas. We really appreciate it.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep practicing those tiny habits, and see what amazing things those small steps add up to.